Okay, good evening and welcome to the Petaluma Community Access Board of Directors meeting for Tuesday, July 16, 2019. Will the secretary call the roll, please?
All right, Cindy Thomas.
Here.
Jean Kirschner, present. Dominica Giovanni here. Randy Stewart.
Here.
Richard Alpert.
Absent.
And Tim Williamson.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum, and is there anyone to speak for public comment? Seeing none, Board of Directors comments and announcements. Any? No? Seeing none, we will move to agenda approval. Everyone has the agenda, has seen it, went out last week. Are there any modifications we need to make? Any deletions? If not, I need a motion to approve.
One comment,
What?
there's an Italian version of Don's name on 11G.
Be Italian for a day. It's a great name.
Oh,
Either that or he's turned into the Marvin Brothers.
okay. We can correct that. That's just words. Okay, so do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, is anyone opposed to this agenda? Okay, approval of the minutes for the June 18 meeting in 2019. I sent those out, I'm sorry, I was late sending them out, but I did go on vacation and I have a lot to do.
So how can you go on vacation when you're retired? It's easy.
Well, I kind of still work
Isn't
for
that like a
PCA,
permanent
even though I'm a
vacation?
volunteer. Anyway, so any changes to the minutes, corrections? If not, I need a motion to approve.
Motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, anyone opposed? Abstentions? No? Okay. We can then go to item 6, which is the treasurer's report. Dominica, please.
I don't think I have anything outstanding, and the budget's gonna be, is that a separate item? That's a separate item, right?
Well, the draft budget for fiscal year 1920 is...
Yes. That's on the agenda, right?
Yeah, that's on the agenda, so we don't need to talk about the draft here, but is there anything in our closing year that you want to comment on?
I still haven't seen any bank statements, so I can't comment on that. Otherwise, I mean, things are kind of business as usual. We're obviously gonna see some changes well, we have seen changes at this year because we've had unforeseen expenses, but I think everyone's aware of those. Otherwise, I mean, I think that's it. Obviously, our income levels when it comes to donations, underwriting, grants are all under where we thought. So that's also affecting our budget discrepancies.
All right, well, so I'm aware that you weren't able to attend the meeting with our accountant Stephanie
I was
last
not,
week, but
no.
Dawn and Randy did. Can anybody give us an idea of how much we overran for this year?
Right?
It should be right on there.
When you mentioned that we had unexpected expenses, and I know for a fact that we overran, I just would like to
Looks like
have on
11,000.
It
record.
was like 11,900.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so 12,000.
12 grand.
12,000 over, okay. Should we at least kind of acknowledge why that happened?
I'd say yes.
I do too.
And whether or not we expect it to be a recurring event.
Well, I think a lot of my notes reflected in next year's budget. Just for me personally, is gonna start addressing that.
So it will get teased out when we come to that item in the agenda?
For me personally, but I think if we wanna talk about it now, totally fine. I mean,
No, we don't have to talk about it now. I know that at some point during this meeting, we need to have that discussion. So Do you want to choose to, as the treasurer, do you want to choose to do that now or later?
I think it'd be good to hash it out when we talk about next year's
Okay.
budget.
All right. Hold my question then. Any other questions for the treasurer on the report? Seeing none, thank you, Domenica. Dawn, we're ready for your executive director's
Right.
report.
It's a long one. The San Diego trip was a success, I think. I attended sessions on underwriting, both paid underwriting and in-kind, separate sessions. Optimizing brand through events and digital strategy for audience engagement. There was a lot of information that I parceled out after I got home and like over the weekend and stuff. And I think it was a success. I think Rob and I made sure to attend different sessions so we got the full breadth of what was being offered. And I'm really glad I went. We received a nice email from the Petaluma Police Department, City of Petaluma, which I printed a copy and added to your packet. We've been really stepping up our PR when they send us flyers and things for events or things they're trying to bring to the public consciousness, which is something I want to keep doing to make sure that TV stays fresh and also that we're helping out the city where we can. We've also been doing a lot of voiceover work in Studio B. Paul, Dana, and Naomi recorded a coffee commercial. We have a new intern named Kylina who's been scripting out the flyers that are sent to us from the city and reading them. I can send this to you, Judy, which has been great. So that's refreshing the radio. And then we're still trying to figure out a way to do voice behind the flyer that's on the TV, like so you could hear the radio script on the TV when the flyer comes up. What else? We have banners hanging at the corner of D and Petaluma Boulevard, as well as the corner of Lakeville and D, just past the drawbridge. And we still have the banner at Mailbox Depot, which is nice of Mo to leave that up there for us. Richard and I had a meeting with Catherine Williams, the Dean of Academic Enrollment at SRJC, and Matt Pearson, who managed media services. I think Matt was a former board member, about having KPCA have a bigger presence at campus-wide events. Possibly doing live audio broadcasts, radio broadcasts, and also bringing video cameras out to talk to students. Catherine Williams is really in favor of this idea, as was Matt, so that's definitely something that's going to be moving forward. It'll help SRJC students know that we have a station and also help us help them, so I think it's a total plus all the way around. The table at the 4th of July celebration was a success. Naomi, Katie, and Anne Marie gave out info on joining PCA, as well as stickers, magnets, and tattoos. Thank you, Judy, for helping us get there and get a good spot this year. We're also looking forward to having tables at the Petaluma Music Festival and movies in the park right outside here as the summer goes on. Did you have a question?
They're over there.
What? Oh, yeah,
Movies in the park are on the other side.
over there.
Yeah, that's the pond.
May the video dictate that the movies are not in the pond. Another successful membership meeting took place on June 26th. We had about 20 members. Rob did a really great job setting it up, and he did a nice icebreaker and everything. I thought it was a really cool meeting to see all these people who's heard each other's shows meet each other in person, and then also spitball ideas and issues and things like that. The next meeting will be a Saturday or Sunday picnic in September, date TBA. We are now broadcasting live 7 days a week. Dana and Judy have moved to Wednesday nights. Well, Judy's every other Wednesday, and there's also new shows on Saturday and Sunday, so we're now live broadcasting 7 days a week, which is exciting. In less exciting news, the two Mooks and a Mike show has retired. They're just on doing other stuff. So we have a noon Friday slot available if anybody wants to start a new politics show. And then also in your packet, you'll find my underwriting plan, as well as still a rough draft flyer for the sponsor of the week. And then also, I think I sent out an email to at least Cindy and Domenica about getting car donations for PCA. If you have a car or any kind of vehicle, really, boat, motorcycle, car, you can donate to PCA. There's a company that sets that up, and they only take 20% of the total expense, and they do pretty much everything for you. The flyers in the packet. That's it.
So just for clarity, so are we gonna take the underwriting and the other documents and kind of mull them over and then talk about it at the next meeting, or approve it at the next meeting, or what's that looking like?
Who are
I
you?
don't have an answer. Everyone, I don't know.
I was
don't
told to
have
bring
an
a draft. I
answer.
didn't know if it needed to be approved, if it's a policy, or if it's just a draft of what we're gonna be doing.
I mean, I
I'm
think there's
open to whatever.
discussion necessary. I'm just not sure if anyone has notes right at this moment in time.
So I meant to include under reports of committees, the underwriting committee, and I see that I neglected to put it there, and I had every intention of making that a mandatory report out Or if we could just make it mandatory, report out an executive director's report every month.
Oh, okay.
I told you we want minutes and agendas from that committee
Right.
and report out.
So we've only had one meeting, so I was bringing.
I see,
PCAs and then-
I'm signing checks here and I see that there's some documents in here that pertain to what you were just kind of talking about. Or is this a packet was this my packet?
Oh, that's just your packet.
Oh, okay, because I
It's just
saw,
an informative packet.
okay, because I saw, oh, this is for cars. PCA sponsor of the week.
Right?
Did you just talk about that?
I just mentioned
Yeah.
briefly, yeah.
Okay, because like I say, I'm signing checks, I'm multitasking here. And there's an underwriting contract, is this what you're talking
Yeah,
about?
so you can take a look at it and make sure it's what you guys are thinking, or, again, I was under the impression that you just wanted to see it, I didn't know it needed to be approved, but I'm willing to do whatever protocol
Yeah,
dictates.
I mean, that's pretty significant, and the board should probably look at that.
It's fine with me, I brought it. I mean, but it's
It's
also,
not
I
on
feel
the
like.
agenda, though, it needs to be an agenda item.
That's what my question
Oh,
was,
okay.
yeah, that was, sorry.
Okay, so
for
you're not doing
articulating.
anything with this yet?
Not yet.
Okay, we'll just keep it on your back burner while you continue to meet, and
Okay.
we'll agendize it for the next meeting.
Or you could put it under my executive, you could put a sub heading under the executive director report.
I think it should be an agenda item.
Okay.
Yeah, I do too.
And so, and
So
the
you're saying,
only,
just, sorry, go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, the only thing, my question was, is the annual report.
I didn't print it out, sent it to you guys.
I did see it yesterday,
Friday.
it was Friday, okay.
It's on the agenda.
Oh, it's on the agenda, okay.
Yeah.
It was like 8 pages, I don't.
See all these new business items? We're gonna be busy.
I'm really overwhelmed by,
A lot of stuff going on.
There's one check in there that's not signed by the second. Do you see it?
There's 2 in there.
That's not signed by a second?
Oh, you know what, I just got these today, yeah. I'll
Okay.
sign them,
Okay. All right. Anything else for executive director's report that we need to, Don? or
2 things.
Tim?
One, that is really cool, all the stuff that you've been doing with Petaluma PD. That's a very nice note from Jennifer Pritchard, JP, we call her. I would encourage that, working on that even more. And if you like, I can get you the contact for the social media group of which Jennifer's a part of.
Yeah, I'd like to do some videos with them too, I know they've got some stuff that's kind of outdated.
So we've established a group, and JP is one of the members. She's one of the more prominent because she's full-time on doing that. And that's all a part of the city manager's community engagement program. The other thing is, have we gotten anywhere with PG&E's extended outage announcement?
I'm not sure what that is.
Look at the county website, find information there.
I think we need to take that one offline, maybe talk more.
Yeah, that's a Jeff conversation.
Yeah, that's worse than that, but yeah.
Well, no, I mean, yeah, make sure Jeff is in that
Yeah.
conversation, yeah.
I will mention it to him when he borrows my ladder tomorrow.
Well, you're up there.
I wait till he's up on top, and then I'll bring it on. What? That was it, just, I only have these 2 things. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else for Dawn? Okay, thank you, Dawn. Oh, I know, I wrote questions while I was signing checks. Has anything come in yet about our involvement with the Progressive Festival, which is something we do every year?
No, but I can reach out.
Okay, I just want to bring it to everybody's attention that the Progressive Festival is being taken over by Indivisible Petaluma, and I think we need to have a conversation about this in view of, I just think we need to have another conversation about it. It's not the Petaluma Progressives, it's Indivisible Petaluma.
Which is-
2 entirely different organizations, and if we might want to decide that we're gonna charge for that service this year.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
they also endorse one side or the other, so I
Right.
don't think that that's
Yeah.
a fair assumption that we're gonna do it for
Exactly,
free.
there's a lot of controversy around indivisible Petaluma, so. Okay, put that on your to-do list, Don.
It's on there.
Okay, thank you. We have no items on the consent calendar, so we can skip that. Reports of committees, the executive committee did meet. I did remember to bring the agenda this time, so there's a report out on it.
I can bring up the notes, right?
Here.
I can get on the internet.
There was
Well, I have the
only-
minutes.
Yeah,
in
there was
here.
only a couple of things.
Good.
And I can make it real simple. We reviewed the items for the upcoming Board of Directors meeting, which we always do, and the only other item was discussion and possible recommendation to reorganize the executive committee, which is an actual agendized item tonight, so we don't need to discuss that now. Are we good with that? Okay. Finance committee, no meeting. Nominating committee, no meeting. Policies and procedures did not meet. There were a few of us that were out of town, but we will resume.
Wait,
Well,
so
that's-
hold on, there's more on the,
That's on the agenda also.
sorry, there's more
Oh.
on the executive.
Oh.
Okay, we just added old business, the handbook.
Oh, we had to do an executive, we had to make an executive decision, and that is also on the agenda.
Oh, it is on the agenda, okay.
Let me see. Yes, it is. It's under 11F.
Budget.
Um,
Yeah, okay, so I think
Yeah.
those were just agenda items that were added,
Right.
so,
Right.
yeah, that's it, okay.
Was that it? Okay.
Yep.
Where was I? Oh, committees.
Yeah, policies, procedures, and.
Policies and procedures. Hold on, I think that's on the agenda here too. Anything? Yes, 10B will address that. Outreach committee, I don't think met. Is that correct, Don?
No.
No. Okay, so we're through the reports of committees. Let's start with old business. We're doing good on the time. Item 10A under old business, discussion and possible action on the annual PCA members meeting and election. And I put that on there, well, it needs to be on there all the way every month until we have our actual members meeting and the election. My concern is that we do not have any members on the, well, we have Richard Alpert is on the nominating committee. He's not here tonight to speak on that. Jason Lopez was on that committee, and we accepted his resignation at the last meeting, so we're kind of in a wave with recruitment of candidates for the seats that need to be filled, and I wanted to bring that out real quick. I have that here. I'll remind you all that the seats that are coming up for re-election are there's one seat, and it is going to be,
Mine's coming up.
okay, wait, you were elected in 17 for 2 years, so Domenica's seat is coming up, and I don't know if you want to make any announcements around that.
I will not be rerunning for election.
So Domenica will be leaving the board at the end of September. And that is it. No, those are elected seats. We're not talking about the appointeds, which are always 1 year. Oh, wait, Judy's.
Mine.
I missed that. So I knew there was two, and I was like, how did I miss that? It's Judy and Domenica.
Page one.
Yes.
Are you planning on staying with us?
Could maybe, yeah, we can talk.
All right,
I'm-
all right.
I'm not.
We'll talk offline,
Yeah, please.
but we need to find two two things can happen here. We can look for and support two candidates, or we can just support one candidate, or we can support no candidates. On the flip side, anyone who's a member of PCA can pull an application and run for those seats. So, that said, that needs to be worked out in the nominating committee, and we need some help with that. But I'm not gonna go there because there is an item on the agenda tonight to, wait, did I put on it? Yes, committee assignments. So let's have that discussion then, okay?
Yeah.
But anyway, I gave you the calendar so that you can see what's coming up in August. We have to mail the petition notice to the members by August 16th. And that's so any member can get signatures for a petition and run for either of those offices. And then we have, on the 19th of August, the last date for the nominating committee to meet and create recommendations for nominees. And that would be to present at the August meeting, which is the next day on the 20th. We also, I see a typo, we also have to appoint an election inspector, and that's the person that counts the ballots at the time that we close ballots being returned. Jude Meon has been our inspector for, I want to say, the last 4 or 5 years, and has volunteered to do it again. So do we want to look further, or we can have 1 inspector or 3 inspectors? It's got to be an odd number so that the tiebreaker rule. 1 works just fine. If you want, I will confirm with her, and then we can put that on the agenda next month.
I didn't submit it.
It's just a straw poll here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I will do that.
That was yesterday.
So I guess there's no action on that item except for me to talk to Jude, which is not something we have to vote on. Okay, too much paper here. Okay. That was 10A. 10B is discussion only of programmer handbook. I put you down for that, Domenica, since you were at the policies and procedures meeting. If you would just give an update of what we did at the last meeting.
Well, I think, so the last meeting was before our last board meeting, and so we brought it before the board
Well,
at the last board
we
meeting.
had it on the agenda to approve it, but we weren't ready yet.
Right, and we just got the changes today. So we still can't bring it before you.
Right, because you haven't had a chance to read it.
Yeah, I definitely haven't had a chance to read it. None of us had a chance to read it. So I think that that can be an agenda item on the next agenda, and then we can make sure the document is sent out with the agenda materials. I know we're within the 72 hours of the Brown Act, but if it's ever at all possible to get the materials before Friday, that'd be wonderful, because I'm not sitting on my weekends reading board documents. So, just my request, and it seems like at the executive committee we have the agenda set, so, I mean, the minutes might come out later, but I feel like all the other attachments are possible to come out earlier. Just a little favor to ask, but otherwise, I mean, there's no other reports. Like I said, we got it today. We'll put it on next month's agenda and send it out. And, I mean, maybe it can even get sent out right away.
Okay. Okay, no action there on 10C. Under old business, we have discussion and possible action on the strategic plan, which tells me I forgot to delete that.
That's
from
my
mine.
bad too. I should have noticed before,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay,
that's-
so as far as that, we have all agreed to do a quarterly check-in on that.
Yeah.
No action. Let's move to new business on 11A, discussion and possible action action to dismiss an unqualified board director. This is, I don't like talking about this stuff in public. We, in a closed session meeting last month, one of the discussions was to talk to Richard Alpert, who unfortunately is not, well, I don't want to say unfortunately, Richard is not a Petaluma resident. We have to abide by the language in our bylaws which says to be on the board of directors, you must be a member of PCA, and it also states that to be a member of PCA, you have to reside in Petaluma. In the closed session, we offered Richard to fill out his term on the board, which would end in September. He said he would give it some thought. We did that as a courtesy. We have since received an email from him that says, Dear PCA, this is not a resignation letter. I was told that I must leave PCA because I live in Pembroke. This is unfortunate because I was looking forward to working on more projects. I appreciate the opportunity to have served on the PCA Board of Directors. I wish PCA all the best. Sincerely, Richard H. Alpert. And we, in turn, appreciate what he has contributed to us. However, if he doesn't want to provide a resignation and doesn't want to attend the meetings, then I think we need to dismiss him because it is an elected seat and we need to offer that up to the membership. Did I miss anything?
When is his elected seat up?
This
It's
year.
up in September.
Okay, so that's one.
Well, we
Yeah.
tried to work
Oh,
with him
I
and let him fill out
understand.
his seat, and he obviously is not interested in doing that. And I would say publicly that his statement that it's unfortunate because he's looking forward to working on more projects does not prevent him from working on projects. We accept volunteers from anywhere. I mean, anybody can volunteer. To be a member, you have to be in a 94952 or a 54.
Right.
So, I'm going to move that we remove Richard from the board of directors. Is there a second?
Excuse me, does the bylaws account or give us the ability to do that, or do we just let it expire?
Well, there's the other rules in there that the number of meetings that you miss, which we could use
Consecutive.
that.
Consecutive meetings.
Mhm.
Was he was the last, no, he was not the last one.
Yeah.
I think it's 3.
And that would include the board retreat in March, which he did not attend.
But I think it's 3 consecutive.
That is a meeting. Which meetings are you talking about?
3 consecutive means that he made one since the board retreat.
There's a motion on the floor. I need a second, and then we can have more discussion. No second?
I'll second it.
Okay, now we can have further discussion. Okay,
Now you tell me.
go ahead. I'm just
I
following
already
the rules.
discussed it. I'm just asking, do the bylaws cover our ability to do that? And I'm questioning the 3 or 3 in a row.
Well, extending, I mean, really, if he's not a member, he can't be on the board. We, as a
Correct.
courtesy, extended his board membership until September, but
Okay.
it's pretty cut and dry, in my mind.
And to me, and this is an uncomfortable conversation to have in public, but it is what it is. This email shows me his continued resistance to work with members of the board, which I can attest to that he's been pretty disrespectful to me in communicating and working with me. And I think there's others on the board that can say the same thing, so. What else?
For me, I think it's just cut and dry. It's in the books. Not a resident, not a member, not a board member. That's it.
Okay.
That's enough said almost.
I'm gonna call for the vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Right.
All those opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Record will show that Tim has abstained.
Okay.
Okay. So much for the bad stuff. 11B, discussion of possible action to appoint a board director. I forwarded to all of you. Paperwork's all screwed up. The application, the board application form submitted by Rhonda Black, who I have met with numerous times on this. She has attended the previous board meeting, which was last meeting. Thank you for that. And I now want to open it up to the other directors as far as any questioning or.
Interrogation.
Do you want to, Rhonda's here.
Prepped for
Rhonda
that.
Black is here. Do you want to, is there anything that you want to say to us? I'm gonna comment first so that you could just to say, when you look at, we have the checklist that we provide to applicants called the Board of Directors Skills Survey, and it's kind of, you know, we want to know what your experience is. Have you served on other nonprofits? Do you have time, willing to contribute, contacts with other nonprofits and other various entities, contacts with schools, public speaking skills. There's a whole range of stuff here that we look for in a board member, and Rhonda has checked almost every box.
I have to say that public speaking's not my thing,
Ye-
but I do it. I don't like it, but I do it.
I saw you in the Vagina Monologues. You spoke very well.
Rehearse.
Okay. Anyway, that said, I wanted to point that part out if anybody missed it, but how could you? Rhonda, do you want to say anything?
I didn't prep anything, and I'm much better when I have something prepped.
You don't have to, you prepped right here. And so,
Good.
all right, so then let me just turn it back around on the directors. And is there any questions from directors?
No, is that your?
It's the one thing I looked
What's that?
at. That's the one thing I looked at before today.
No, it did look like you were about to say something, and so if you wanted to say it, or if you were just.
I do. I don't feel that the one meeting that I attended, that I know enough about what's going on. Will there be somebody to update me and get me up to speed on everything? I mean, I've gone through the first agenda from the first meeting and the minutes from the first meeting, and then sat through this meeting with the agenda, and I feel vaguely familiar with it, but is there somebody else, somebody who can
We
get
will
me up to
mentor
speed?
you.
Yeah.
You will mentor me, thank
Do we tell her,
goodness.
do we tell her about the hazing now or after?
You gotta swim across that lake.
Oh, I can do that. I don't want to, because I know there's all
Who
those
knows
things
what's
in
in
there,
it.
but I could.
Jaws.
Hazing is
No.
Shocker.
Crabs.
Okay, so, I'm gonna make the motion that we, okay, let me get my things out here again. I'm going to recommend that we appoint Rhonda. I had it here. Which seat are we appointing you to? Well, Richard's seat is up. We have Richard's seat is vacant and Jason's, which Jason was appointed, so there's only appointed seats open. I am going to move that we appoint Rhonda Black to one of our vacant appointed seats on the board of directors. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions? Alrighty then. Come sit with us.
We joked about hazing and she stayed.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'm brave,
Have a seat.
and 4 brothers, older.
Yeah, I didn't reason.
Thank you.
Okay.
Since you knew you were like that.
The next thing on the agenda is discussion and possible action to reorganize the executive committee. I will pass on to you the recommendation. I didn't print one for you, but
Sorry.
all right, give
I
it
can
to
listen.
I mean, I know.
All right. Oh, yeah.
Remember you were there.
I have it in my minutes.
All right. Okay, so as I mentioned in the executive committee report with Dominica, we had on the agenda a recommendation to reorganize the executive committee. And so what you have in front of you is the recommendation, which was approved unanimously at the 7/9/2019 executive committee meeting. The recommendation is to nominate Dominica Giovanni for the vacant vice chair seat, which she would then be required to vacate the treasurer seat, and then to nominate Randy Stewart for the vacant treasurer seat, which would give us a full executive committee. I think at our last meeting it was pretty apparent Randy's knowledge of finances and nonprofit finances, and Dominica and I were pretty impressed with that, and Dominica and I discussed it on our own, and then again I talked to Randy before the executive committee, and we discussed it in an executive committee, and we feel that this would make for a strong executive committee, which we really need right now. So, any questions, conversation, no discussion? Pretty cut and dry. Tim, what do you think?
I think a lot.
I know.
Oh, you mean specifically about this?
Think all the time.
Does this mean that you've talked to Dominica and running for re-election?
No.
Oh, so this is gonna be a 2-month job.
You want to speak to that?
That's sad.
That is sad.
I think we should pressure her into more.
I'm being
I have
pressured.
been pressuring
I'll
her.
fix your bumper.
Well, in that case. I mean, I'm like 99% sure, but I mean, if there's no saying I couldn't do.
He's fixing your bumper for crying out loud.
Well, as we all know, the
Think of something
treasurer,
better.
She YouTubed it.
the treasurer position takes time. I mean, finances is very intense and time consuming, and it means that the finance committee should be meeting every month, and it's not, because Dominica has a real job and responsibilities. She's in charge of an organization that's busy and keeps her busy, and I thought offering her to take the VP position would lessen that for her. And Randy is eager to get his hands on the bank account.
Plus he'll fix her bumper.
Not so
Sure.
much, just, I view my role as just overseeing what staff does and the director.
Why don't you tell the rest of the board what you do for the Masons?
I've been the treasurer of the lodge, and then I'm also the president of the board of trustees. And I'm the building manager for the center, and I take care of the record keeping and taxes and stuff like that, so. Been doing that for about 10 years now.
You have a way with numbers.
Well,
Much better than me.
I'm
Randy's
retired.
retired, he has
When I'm
time.
retired, I have time to learn the ins and outs of the PCA, which now that I have this book and a few other things to read,
Huh?
You gotta get one of
I am.
it shouldn't take too long.
Correct.
Come. I just want to add too that we had a meeting on Friday with Stephanie, the bookkeeper, Randy, myself, and Ellie, and Stephanie, and Randy, and Randy came up with like 3 or 4 ideas I never would have thought of in terms of
Nice.
generating revenue just within that meeting as like an aside, so I'm excited to have him come in.
You mean like the part where they added all the zeros?
Yeah, the $1 million, yeah, that was Randy.
Which is no sense.
Smooth, man. Yeah.
I didn't know you could do that.
Just a spreadsheet.
It's pretty, no, but I think it's a plus.
Okay, well, I like the idea personally, especially.
So I need to get a motion.
Motion that we reorganize the executive committee, nominating Dominica to the vice president seat and nominating Randy for the treasurer seat.
I kind of think we have to do it separate
Separately?
because she
Okay.
has to vacate the seat before we can put him in the seat.
Okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will adjust that.
I'll make the motion to
Okay.
move Dominica to the vice chair.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Welcome aboard.
Ron's
Okay.
first vote.
Ta-da!
You
Which
wanna
she
do the next
handled
one
with
since
remarkable
you're-
panache.
Incredible.
Okay, nominate Randy to the treasurer seat.
I second that.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, no one's opposed. We did it. Congratulations to you both. Roll your sleeves up. Okay, the next thing is item. We did that. Wait, 10D.
Yeah, we did that.
Oh, we just did that. We did C and D together,
C&D
kind of,
together,
yes.
Yeah, 10E.
Okay. 11E is a discussion on possible action to make committee assignments. Okay, so, yeah, you'll need to be on 2 committees. It's in the bylaws, which I hope you are familiar with. They were online, even though you didn't have a book. The executive committee will consist of automatically Thomas Kirschner, Giovannini, and Stewart. I'm gonna do this as a lump thing. So we'll add Stewart to the exec-com. Finance committee, do you wanna stay on that?
No.
Domenica
Sure.
was off that.
I would like
Could
to
you
be on
be
the,
when you start?
I mean, if you need any support, I'm happy to help, I just don't
Right.
wanna be locked in.
I would recommend Stewart and Black.
Thank you.
Does that sound good? Okay.
We need the third.
Mm,
For the nominating committee,
I'll take it on.
okay. Domenica and
Bueller.
Rhonda, I would think that you might wanna do that since it's easy and
Yeah. For the finance committee,
nominating committee,
nominating committee.
that's where we try to brainstorm who to, and I'll,
We meet like twice a year, so you'll be fine.
Oh, okay.
yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute, thank you for that.
That would be the simplest for you as a new board member. I would recommend that.
And I haven't been on it
So
either,
that's,
so we'll
that's
get
your
up to
2
speed
committees.
together.
Randy, you've got 2 committees. Policies and procedures is Williamson, Thomas, and Giovannini. What do you want, Domenica? You want off?
No, I'll stay.
Okay. And then outreach committee, Judy and I. And you can be on more committees than 2.
I'm gonna be on
I just-
outreach. That's.
You wanna be on outreach?
Yeah, it's up my alley.
Okay.
Finance committee.
Okay, so I'm gonna make a motion that we reorganize our committees to look like Executive Committee, Thomas Kirschner, Giovannini, and Stewart. Finance Committee, Stewart and Black. Nominating Committee, Giovannini and Black, removing Alpert. Policies and Procedures, Williamson, Thomas, Giovannini, and Outreach Committee, remove Alpert and make it Thomas Kirschner Black. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Good. Wow, I love this board. Okay,
We already talked about this.
item 11F, discuss discussion only of the AC unit located in the PCA recording booth at City Hall. That pertains to the executive decision that we had to make. You want to report? You did all the work.
I mean, that's it, we just made an executive decision we required the 3 quotes come in, and we went with the lowest quote, but it was not only the lowest dollar amount, but it actually had a much better warrant service agreement, and so we got a lot of bang for our buck. Don't remember the name of the company, but they're
Atlas.
local,
Yeah.
yeah. So, we had to make an executive decision because it was an emergency, and there was gonna be some time it took. So, is there any update on that?
25th. I know I emailed you.
Next Thursday?
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
that's as soon as they can do it.
And I signed the check today.
So,
That was
And
also
I'm happy to take my temporary back.
your
Very nice.
temporary air conditioner. Is that yours?
Yeah.
I was at City Hall today, meeting with Peggy Flynn on an unrelated issue to PCA, but I stopped into the booth and that thing works pretty good.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'm taking it back though.
Just looks like a 70s
That's
action figure. That's
sweet.
the only problem.
The only downside is that it looks ugly having that exhaust.
You know what looks uglier is smoking server hardware.
I know.
Just the smoke will scare you. Yeah, that saved
The
us. A
sound
couple of
made
years
it
ago
sound
during a
worse.
big power outage, we had our AC unit fail and it hit 90-some degrees in the server room. We rolled that thing and stabilized it.
I heard about that.
So,
Okay.
$2 million.
Another positive that came out of it too, besides all the negative, is Jeff Trier ordered a piece that goes to his phone that'll alert him if the temperature gets too high in there. Like over last weekend, I guess somebody inadvertently unplugged the AC and it alerted
Right.
Jeff, so
That's great.
it's, yeah,
I'm not that they unplugged it, but they checked out the.
we have to go down there
Did you figure out who unplugged it? Was
We think
it
it was the
like
cleaning people.
environmental services or something?
The room is open, it could anybody.
It could have been anybody.
It's a public lobby during the
But
day.
if it happened during the weekend, you guys are closed Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Probably a cleaning crew,
But that would be a possibility.
could be rats.
Put a sign up.
Anybody with an ID card.
Oh. Anyway.
Why would I go unplug it?
All right, so that was just discussion only, so. All right, 11G is a discussion and possible action on the draft annual budget. Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Louise.
I gave you guys an updated one. The one I sent on yesterday was incorrect. I apologize for not looking closer. This is the budget that Randy sat in on with Nellie, myself, and Stephanie. You know, I don't know if I was overly worried about the budget just from having seen the work that John did on it, the way he works, and just how all the ins and outs, but I feel much better having sat with everybody and looking at it and having questions answered and things like that. Yeah, a couple things that came off from last year was the Teleview service. I guess we had to pay for like a warranty, so that's been off, and I think it was $5,000
For multi-year.
for a multi-year, so that's off this year. We had a DirecTV fee we were paying that came off. It was basically to run one program on the TV, and we apparently had someone who was sponsoring that before, and they're no longer doing it, so that's gone. That's $800 a year that we saved, which is nice. We can discuss the budget line for the legal fees, if you guys want to. There's no line item for grants, but grants are a little bit tricky because you never know.
Well, that was one of my, my notes, I just made a bunch of notes.
It's like I made you guys this packet, just then you need way more paper, sorry.
So, so with regard to contributions and grants, I'm personally not comfortable with having that as a zero. I don't know how everyone else feels, like, I get budgetarily, we wanna be conservative, but at the same time, I think setting it as a zero is basically like saying that it's okay if it's a zero. I don't know how other people feel about that.
I agree. I think we should set it as the number that we came up with at the retreat in March.
Let me look that up.
What do you like?
Let me look it up. Got
Hold
it.
up.
But we can continue on that.
And I also just want to add too that, that plan I came up with that I gave you guys to look at for the sponsorships, the 52 sponsors at 250 a week, that's aimed at smaller businesses. And if we successfully get 52 sponsors at 250, that'll be $13,000, which is $3,000 over the projected goal for underwriting. So there's some flexibility there too, in a positive way.
Are you talking about this form that I saw earlier about, what was it?
It's the very lovely-
PCA sponsor of the week?
Correct. That's for small businesses. That's not specific to like underwriting. I'm aiming for
Okay.
bigger businesses or events who want to underwrite, or coalitions, the Census Bureau, government people who have money to throw towards underwriting. The sponsor of the week would be smaller businesses. We intentionally made it small, so $250 for 1 week, pretty much, to get on the radio and the TV is a pretty good bargain.
Did you say Census Bureau?
Yeah, the Census Bureau apparently gives money to people to get out information about the census, like where to sign up and things like that, which is something I learned at the conference.
And if, as long as you include, are you a citizen?
No comment, sir. It's just more about where to do it and what it means. It's not, it's just information, we can't do a call to action
Kind of
if
like
it
an
is government,
kind of like an
so.
outreach, huh?
Yeah, exactly. They have money set aside for outreach, and a lot of it goes to public access, because we could put it on the TV channels and we could do a radio ad.
We kindly accept.
It's all government.
So government has bigger money. The 250 would be like a mom and pop shops, things like that. If individuals want to do it and dedicate it to a nonprofit, like if somebody wanted to do $250 and make it in the name of Cinnabar Theater, they could do that. Then there's a limit. You could do 4 total weeks, so they don't take over the whole year for a maximum meeting, which would actually be fine. But
Well, so how do we distinguish then if we're just saying this is for, we'd have to have some distinction based on business size.
right, my thought was, and we talked about it in the first underwriting committee meeting, would be to go after smaller businesses, just to generate interest, and if they wanted to spend more, then maybe pitch them the underwriting plan, if they were a larger small business, like a mid-sized. But it wouldn't make sense to have sponsor of the week be someone like Fish & Supply or Freeman, just who could give a little more if they wanted to. And then on the opposite of that, if we were pitching an underwriting to someone like those two, and they're like, that's a little out of our budget, we're like, how about 2 weeks of sponsor of the week or something like that. So I'm just trying to add a little flexibility and a little attainability, because this is all new to Petaluma, and it's new to the station. And I'm hoping that the more businesses that sign up, it'll encourage people to listen to the radio and see what we're offering in terms of that too. So I'm hoping it's like one hand washing the other, because the big secret is we're still struggling a little bit with marketing and getting listens and things like that. So, and that's another reason why and just to flip over I know we're not really talking about it, we're talking about budget, but the underwriting, I kept the prices low on that too, because I don't want to come out, bold and say all this stuff. And like, well, we pay X amount at the station, Runner Park, and they have a way bigger listenership than you. So I try to make it fair. But back to the budget, it is just $10,000 for the year for the goal for underwriting. So I think if things go as planned, we should exceed that.
And our plan is 12.
Is it 10 or 12? Is it?
12.
What's the grant? Is that 2?
There actually aren't, we actually didn't establish a grant amount. We did fundraising, which is unrestricted contributions at 10,000,
Yes.
not 1. So
Now,
maybe
just
that
people who
included.
come by and give us money? Yeah, that seems a little.
No, it's fundraising, it's
That is-
fundraising
oh.
events,
Wait,
we can include that in grants, I don't know, like
If
hash
you
it
want-
out, I don't know.
On page 2, under income for radio, event income is on there, because like the Lagunitas event was a radio event, and then also the grants for the radio, that's 5,000. I think, if you all go to page 2 on the budget I just gave you, and look under radio income, that's where we house those things.
Why is it separate?
Because, like I was saying, when we did the Lagunitas benefit, it was PCA presents a benefit for KPCA radio, so it's radio income. I'm happy to move
I
that.
don't understand that, because we're the agency that's getting the money, I don't understand the distinction.
That might be a bigger conversation about getting rid of a line item and making it all income.
Well, I mean, I think it's easier to digest personally. I mean, how can we set goals if we're saying we have to have agency income, and then we have to have radio income, we have to have, I mean, I don't know.
I think it's symptomatic of the original budget with just PCA, and then the radio thing being brought in later as a separate piece, and maybe it just needs to eventually morph into one, or.
Maybe certain categories, maybe we can specify certain.
There's a lot, I mean, we
but-
had spoken about this in the meeting, there's some stuff on here, I mean, nobody's gonna
Why
find it
don't
on
why don't we
TV.
take the comments and send them to the finance committee?
That's a good idea. I mean,
Yeah.
stuff like DVD sales, I mean, that's, you know, YouTube uploading, that's.
I said his EV burner was dead.
Yeah, we got 0 on there for that, we're not planning any DVD burning. Yeah, we should take questions and add it to the finance committee, and then we can hone it down. And
I'm more concerned how we're forecasting a budget of 66,000 in the hole.
Yeah, right?
I don't care what line items we put it in. The bottom of page 2, we're in the hole by the end of the year, 66 grand.
Which we just don't have.
I'm not sure we got that in reserves.
We don't. Let me try and see if I can get you an answer to that.
You can send it to the finance committee if you like.
When I would.
I know them, I know who they are.
Well, I guess, and just to the finance committee, my note too, is that assessing if we actually want to disaggregate the radio income in this context, or if we want to track it separately, so we can look at our organizational income as a whole, and then disaggregate it kind of as a separate, I mean, I guess this is separate, but I want to see this money included in our overall.
The format works in the
revenue.
overalls on the bottom, so they're
No,
separate,
but I
they're
mean-
separate and together, so.
But the overall, yeah, I'm saying the overall of everything, but not just the income. That's just my take.
Well, I think it's more like a net forecasted balance or profit and loss for
Well,
the
yeah,
year.
it could be
This is just-
organized that way.
This is just how QuickBooks does it.
What is this?
I don't know, I have a bunch of question marks.
Under radio expenses, what is STL?
Oh,
That's that.
so we talked about that in the meeting. It's,
937,
yeah.
St. Louis.
It's a lot of money, so I wanna know what it is.
$1,500.
Oh, man, we talked about it. I mean,
Is that one of the radio cloud services?
no, it's not.
The radio expenses are coming out, wouldn't they be coming out of the radio income? I mean, if you're gonna collapse them, no?
Well, I mean, it's not separate. We get all the income as an agency, the radio is a program of the agency, so people might be donating. People
Sorry.
might be donating towards the radio specifically because they're like, I'm really into this, but the agency is getting all the money. So what I'm saying, my question is it more appropriate to aggregate all the information in our budget, but then track separately? Like, hey, this is where all the radio stuff, just so we have some sort of guide. But for me, when it comes to grants and contributions and fundraising, I want to see it all in one place. I don't want to see it separated. That's just my personal experience with budgets.
So when the finance committee is considering this, could they also ask the bookkeeper or the CPA as to the advisability of combining and not?
I think she's the one that told us that we had to combine it, because we did have it separate
Well, should,
at one point.
separated out, I mean,
They're sort of separate.
That's the problem, is it's unclear.
Well, you just see the net the organizational net for the year, that's all. Like I said, I'm more concerned that we're in the hole, 66 grand.
Well, I mean, that's, yeah. But that's where I'm saying, like, you can't really assess grant income if you're separating it between radio and regular. Like, I wanna make sure that we set an organizational goal for grants.
By splitting it out as much as there is here, it makes the radio program more attractive.
Well, I'm saying we can still track it, but I'm also saying.
Because the radio program is positive, where the rest of PCA is just a little bit behind.
That's not good though.
Well, neither one of those is good, but it's always nice to know where you're in trouble.
Well, it's a
yeah,
budget
we'll
though,
have to
it's
talk
not.
with Stephanie and see what the rationale is.
I just, basically my point is it's redundancy, but I don't know why it can't be in two places. I don't know why we can't have the organizational totals and then have the radio totals.
Does that have something to do with the PEG fees that we get just for PCA that aren't, or does that, I guess you're still the same umbrella, yeah, I'm
It's
not
all the
sure.
same organization.
So we want to move on to the next topic then? Why are we budgeting only 225,000 in access fees? Is that what we've been? It used to be like 260.
It goes down every year.
Ouch.
Yeah.
What was it, 233 last year?
The tricky part is they kind of go up and down. So you gotta
Yeah, I've got the, I got the list
Six-quarter
right here.
average.
But
So in 2016, we got 52,000. 2017, it jumped 54,000, which was 2,000 more
Per quarter?
for the year, average for the year. That's just for PEG, that's Comcast, I'm sorry.
Oh,
And then AT&T was also they fluctuate.
but that sounds like per quarter. Because they're.
Yeah, you're right. That's
the checks-
average per quarter.
Because the
Yeah.
checks come quarter.
Average per quarter.
there's your answer that you were looking for.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
You guys want to see this? It just
No,
shows.
he,
Randy
he
does.
called me today and I,
I'll just take a copy of it.
Yeah, I got it. I'll be back to the office. But the more people cancel cable, the less money we get. And
right,
cable's
and
getting-
and there's more and
it's a
more
trend.
satellite deals being offered out there, which is pulling people away
And
from.
we
And
read-
Sonic coming to town, which Rick and I spoke about
We
too.
read every day about people pulling the plug and.
You got Netflix, Hulu.
Uh-huh.
When with
Netflix.
Sonic having a firmer grip in Petaluma, they're moving in like crazy. They don't give us any money, and people are doing
That's
cable
because,
through
that's
Sonic.
because Sonic's TV program is a satellite one,
Right.
so they don't use the
But
cable.
as soon as you have Sonic,
Well,
to use your Netflix and Hulu, you're not paying Comcast, so you're not paying.
Patty sent me an article about, in Washington, they're talking about not having mandatory, that they're reducing the mandatory amount that these cable companies would have to give to, in PEG fees to us.
This is set by California state law. Or the PEG fees are in Petaluma.
I'll forward the article to you.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's been a major concern for a long time.
Yeah.
It's when I went to the conference 2 years ago, it was a
Since
major concern.
2006.
I get at least an email a week about,
I know half of them from me.
But that brings me to another.
it's nice to hear from you though, so I'm just happy that, you know.
Would you rather a more
He's
cheerful
thinking of us.
topic?
Okay, so, we still don't have the answer about the overages from last year, which somebody said was gonna come up in this conversation. How much did we overspend last year?
Can I-
12,000, the loss carry forward?
Before we go there, can I just ask, just
Yeah.
for, make a comment about the income, since we're talking about that?
Forget the question.
I won't forget the question. I'll reintroduce the question.
Okay.
So this is just a general comment about production services income, production services, as I've gotten 2 inquiries about us contracting out production services. I've been advocating for this for over 2 years, so I just want to, and so, I don't wanna sit to seem like people don't understand that, but basically, we do contract at a lower rate than a professional videography company, which makes it way more accessible for government agencies, nonprofits, etc. But we charge them, and then we are able to pay people to actually go out and do it. So they're not volunteering. This is something that all major radio and TV stations across the country are doing, because it's where they make a lot of, most all their revenue. So it's underwriting and then production fees. When I was in Boston, I didn't meet one that wasn't doing production fees. So that's just something I wanted to just put out there. It's not a discussion to have right now, but I literally got approached by 2 organizations in 1 week.
Yeah, I think in the past when we've had that conversation, it had to do with staffing.
Well, and we could potentially, I mean, the whole thing is if
You
you
would have
can
to pay
pay
yourself.
people, yeah, if you can pay people to do it, and again, you're still charging less than a professional videographer, which we could charge a lot less and still definitely make our money back, but.
So I'm on board. I've been advocating this for 10 years. And the argument prior was staffing, and we have a full plate. And we were, as an organization, struggling to try to figure out how we were supposed to do what we were doing. Remember we also had staff attrition?
Yeah.
So we're constantly getting new people in, and I think we were kind of behind all the time on training that, so it's stability. But I think, with the franchise revenue continually going down, we need to find something to replace it with.
Well, and I think that the whole thing is each person being an
That's good.
independent contractor. These aren't staff because it's by need, it's not a
I think there
regular.
was a staff overhead concern.
Wouldn't they have to be a
Sure.
member to,
No,
What?
they have to be a member to check out our equipment, to video?
no, we're
equipment?
charging the client in order to provide the services. We're making a bulk of the money, so they're not volunteering.
Okay.
That's how I conceive of it. Like, our staff aren't.
They are
largely
volunteering,
members.
they're not acting as members.
Well, they're getting paid
But they're
though.
Right, yeah.
I'm happy to pursue it, it seems like there might be some stuff we,
I think there is a staff capacity, but again, it's as needed, so it doesn't have to be staff that are actually doing the filming. I mean, maybe put our feelers out there and try to see how much money we would have to make it worth it.
I completely agree, it's worth looking into.
totally.
Yeah, we've had that conversation before.
We just can't volunteer all
Yes,
of
we
our
have.
time anymore. Honestly, I'd rather not volunteer any of our time anymore. I hate to not act like a community player, but I think we just volunteer way too much of our time, and we're in a financial situation where we just can't. We can't work for free.
Right, and I think exceptions need to be made, like
Sure.
for butter and egg days, because Petaluma, the Petaluma Downtown Association makes sure that we get our time on the mic with the
Totally.
judging platforms and whatnot.
That's in kind, and that's
Yep.
fine.
Yeah, it's not that we can't do in-kind stuff, it's just I think it's being a little bit more cognizant of what.
Especially when we get something of value that we wouldn't otherwise get or couldn't otherwise take advantage of. Is this also the right time to talk about the agreement with the city up this fall? Don, do you know for sure?
No, I don't know.
You don't know?
I think
I
we
have
need
an
to put
email,
that
I
on the
haven't had a
next
chance to look.
agenda.
I thought, let's look into it and think about it, because remember I sent you guys a couple.
I got the email, yeah.
Yeah.
The agreement with the
That may
city,
affect the revenue part of this too.
Yeah.
we're in contract with the city to implement this. Where's my agenda, so I can write that. Was there one other thing that we said earlier that needs to be on the agenda?
Yeah, so we wanted, oh, sorry, I thought we were talking about the point I promised to bring back up. The members book, or the program
program
manual.
manual.
Okay. Sorry, I forgot to write that down. I moved that in.
So I promised to bring up this year's shortfall again, so we don't lose sight of that. And I think it also piggybacks on why, like, we cannot have a $66,000 deficit next year. I mean, that's insane, absolutely insane. So if we're not paying for our costs, we need to assess our costs. This is just not gonna work.
66?
Now, this year, for this projection, right here?
Yeah, I saw that, okay, yeah, that's, no.
Exactly.
It's a draft, okay, so.
Yeah, but that's
but
a
we can-
huge,
but we
I mean,
can't-
come on.
But it's a draft, but we can't go to print or ask for approval on going 66 in the hole. Unless we have 600 in the bank.
All right, so what are we gonna do?
Ask Don to work more.
This is
Yeah.
due, at the end of the month to the city.
I don't think that has to be a problem.
We could let Peggy know that we have a new guy and it's a work in progress.
But coming. Coming soon.
How much was our shortfall this year?
There's
12,000.
Okay, and where did that mostly fall?
Legal, internet, website.
Right,
I thought there was room in the budget for the website. I thought that's where the whole agreement happened, or was that gonna come out of the
I
other
thought there was
account?
room in the budget for legal also.
Yeah, there's always room in the budget for legal.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
both of those were extraordinarily high as opposed to, we did a whole website refresh. And we had some extraordinary, out of normal legal expenses.
I would like to
$1,200
ask,
bucks,
So, is that all?
something, well, around 15, let's just put it at 15, but I'm pretty sure
Given
it's
what
less
happened,
than.
I'm surprised if that's that low,
I'm
right?
pretty sure it was less than 15. I mean, I can look up the invoices,
okay, well,
but
there's two things that I want to see that I haven't seen, and I want to see a breakdown of where we overspent. At the next meeting, I'd like somebody to report on that. I think we're responsible for being transparent with that.
Uh-huh.
The second thing that I would like is, I know you saw the spreadsheet that John worked off,
Yes.
which breaks down some of these expenses, like for payroll, you've got numbers here for payroll, but I want to see how that's broken down. That's something that we've always seen,
I put a question mark on that.
Broken down, what you mean?
like how much is being spent for access assistance, how much is being spent for,
Yeah, that's.
you know,
What's here?
They're spread around this way, yeah.
pardon me?
Isn't that what this is?
The 7,000.
Well, it's for RIs only that has names attached to it
I know.
and hours.
Gotcha.
Mm.
Isn't that what these numbers are? Membership
That's what
coordinator,
I just-
executive director,
That's what I was just asking.
I want to see the
737.
hours, I want to see
You wanna see like
Got
each
it.
individual
each
person?
individual, what their
Sure.
hours are, and, yeah,
Without
He
the
didn't
names
play the
attached.
forecast.
Yeah,
with the names attached.
Oh, with the names attached.
So.
Okay.
So he's able to do things like
Yeah.
throw in a what if raise and stuff like that, or extra hours for Dawn, that kind of thing.
Well, it sounds like we're not gonna have the money to do that, so.
Because I also kind of
I
like.
think she's hinting that the what if is where can we,
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Look
I'm
for
not saying
reductions.
cutting, I want to see how much.
look for reductions. I mean, I'm
I
not
want to
saying.
see, whereas, like, say Tim is scheduled to work 32 hours a week, how much overtime had to be, you know, what were overtime hours, what were regular hours? It would
I know
help.
what spreadsheet
Yeah.
you're talking about.
You remember the grid that John does?
I can visualize it on my desk.
I know you can.
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
I also don't understand too, I mean, I'm making less than John was, so his thing came off of this, that we're still in that big of a hole. It's too
Well,
strange.
we gotta figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's our responsibility
Yeah.
as fiduciaries to see that stuff. And so if any member walks up to us and asks us a question, we at least have a general idea of
Absolutely.
why. Okay.
Are we talking about the 12,000 from last year or 16 proposed for this year?
Yes.
That there's two things that I'm asking here, seeing the 12,000, where we overspent and why. Because I don't think we overspent, I think we only overspent a couple $1,000s on legal.
But we were also off 11,000 something in incomes.
I mean, the thing that Robin went to is a little more expensive in the last few years. I mean, there's just a few things, but yeah, it's
Okay,
still, yeah, we'll look into it.
okay. So what are we doing,
That's a great question.
treasurer?
It's my responsibility. I'm just joking.
No, because you were last year.
For the next 40
What's your
minutes.
recommendation for, to throw in Randy's lap?
I think that we really need to reassess our income, and actually set goals. Realistic goals, but I think without them, then we are like zero in grants. I mean, I also want to make sure that the bookkeeper and the finance committee really consider how this information is disaggregated and if there's a better way to consolidate fundraising and that kind of stuff, so it's under the agency that is receiving the money. While also, you know, a lot of governmental budgets, you have the total budget in each line item, and then you do have it separated out by program, but it's separate, it's not in the budget. So those are my two recommendations, and then, of course, we are going to get the more itemized description of the stuffing. The parole,
Okay.
the parole, the payroll.
Okay, so that's two things that'll be added to the next agenda. That sounds to me like we're gonna do a strategic plan review again to revisit the goals that we set at the retreat, and that we're gonna put budget 2020 under old business and ask the city manager for an extension. Am I correct?
Yes.
Who asks the city manager for the extension? Me? Okay.
Yes.
Maybe Tim,
You the
can help
boss.
with that.
Could we do it with the ladder tomorrow?
Maybe not. Yeah, you can do it with ladder.
And I think asking for that extension, it would be impressive for her to see our treasurer being copied on that.
Do you want,
And actually
do we
vote
ask
it.
for how long the extension, or just request an extension or whatever she comes back with, we go with? Do we have a specific,
I'd say specific.
60 days, 30 days?
Can we do 30?
No,
I'd
we're
say
gonna
we
go now,
can-
since 30 is our next meeting.
Ask for what we can do.
By end
60.
of August.
60.
End of
No.
August?
45.
Historically, people haven't read that anyway. I'm the only one that reads it, so.
Well,
Same thing with the yearly report.
I think the new city manager,
Pardon me?
I think that the new city manager is probably gonna read everything, so.
Get it to speed.
Well, I think Tim's feeling that she's gonna hand it off to somebody. No?
It depends on what part you're talking.
Budget?
Budget.
I don't think we should assume
I
that.
think she's very acutely interested in outreach, and I think that's, might be the right place to frame this.
So can you
Okay.
help Don with this, like, messaging situation?
Would you like
August 30th is a
Would you like to
Friday.
be involved in that email exchange?
Sure,
Should you be copied?
sure.
Okay, so if you could copy the treasurer and the city designee, or designate,
Designate.
whatever you are.
Norwegian, not so designated.
And then what, did you want to do like August 30th? That's the Friday, and it's the last week of August? Is that
Why
good
don't you take that
extension?
offline with Randy and Tim?
Okay.
It needs to be what we can make, because you don't want to ask for it again.
That's what we do.
And then she's
and
gonna
we-
tell us.
And we
when
need
it's
to
gonna
check,
be due.
we need to check the contract expiration.
It could be one conversation.
Do I need to put that on the agenda, a memo of understanding? Okay,
I
MOU,
imagine that we
be
have to
on the
approve it
next.
to ask to submit to the city, or
The new contract, you mean?
the person that used to handle it retired, and I think it's kind of dropped.
Oh, I already had that on there. Okay, then we're tabling that for the next meeting. That would be item 11G, next meeting for old business. 11H, discussion and possible action on the draft annual report.
So I got this yesterday. I really need time to look at it personally. It's due at the end of the month. Yeah,
Should we just save time and say that we need to put that on the next agenda and ask for an extension on that as well?
I'll also add that the only thing I left out of the annual report was the budget, because we were still going over it when I sent that last week, so that part, that little section has, I mean, that's,
the whole thing.
it's a paragraph.
So reading a complete rewrite is a little harder than reading a red line. A red line, I can see that, oh yeah, that's what we said last year, and of course, it makes sense to just change the dates and stuff like that. I'm interested in what substantially you've done differently than what we've done in years past.
With the annual report,
Yeah,
I tried to focus in more on the successes rather than the tedium of the uphill battle that has been PCA.
so it is a real rewrite.
Yeah, I didn't cut and paste anything.
Okay.
I mean, I cut and paste the headers, what should go in there, but everything,
The titles are good, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna have a lot of notes just at first look.
yeah, it's a draft, and I've
I
never done
think
something like this, so.
That,
Well, it's different than what you told me, what you were going to do, so I was a little taken by surprise.
It's different than what I told you I was gonna do?
Yeah,
In what way?
we talked about using John's report from last year and just updating it, using that as a template.
I mean, I rewrote it, but I've used the same information.
Okay, you just made more work for yourself, but.
I want to do a good job. I don't want to just be John's, I mean, John had stuff in there that I don't think we don't need to harp on, the shortcomings and how hard everybody works and how it's a labor of love. We should focus on the positive aspects of what's coming to the organization and the positive changes on outreach and things like that, which is what I put in there. But I'm happy, I mean, I've got his reports,
I'm not sure that, I don't remember, I don't know if we went over them in board meetings, I don't remember seeing his reports. I have a feeling that they're in a voice that I wouldn't agree with. That's just my personal,
Yeah, I agree with you,
that's
yeah.
my personal opinion, just based on how he wrote, no offense, John. But I mean, I have a lot of notes on this one, like the I statements do not belong in an annual report. I don't like the we statements, I think it should be PCA. So there's just a lot, like you are the executive director, but the I statements are, in my mind, very inappropriate. I would never write a report to any governmental agency saying, well, I did this, or, and that's, you didn't do that, but it's just, I have entered, I don't think that any of those belong in any sort of report, so I need to really go through this. I haven't had time in the last 24 hours. I don't think the whole emphasis that you just started in this context is appropriate.
Okay, so, in the interest of time, I'm gonna say that we table this for the next meeting, ask for an extension, along the same lines as the
These
budget.
typically are delivered at the same time.
We did, yes, we usually submit them at the same time.
And the budget stuff wasn't in there also yet.
Since I usually sign this, I would like to be part of making the changes that I think some of us see necessary. Tim, you've been on the board a while. Rhonda and Randy and Judy have not, so their eyes aren't accustomed to this report, but you and myself and Dominica have. Can we work with?
Send it to the Policies and Procedures Committee.
Not really.
It's kind of an
So it's
interesting
us?
coincidence.
No.
Well, so my question
The
is,
non-quorum, yeah, the non-quorum committee that could help Dawn with this.
so just by way of process, do you want us to just send our notes over to you and then you can kind of make the decision since you have to sign it?
No, send them to Dawn, and then I would like to see it come to the executive committee, and then we can review it there.
Got it.
After Tim has seen the finished product.
So I'm just asking what the best way is, because I don't want it to be like send edits, send edits, send edits, just to make it streamlined. We put it like in a Google Doc.
Do you want to take it?
Yeah, I have it in a Google Doc. I put it into a Word to get to you. I can share the Google Doc though.
Do you want to take another spin at it with the general comments you have tonight, or just submit this to the bloodbath?
Whatever you guys think is easiest. I'm happy to rewrite it. It was a draft.
I like the sound of what you did.
We're not asking, I don't think we're asking you to rewrite it. I think we're asking you to shine it up, taking into consideration the feedback you got tonight.
Okay.
And then resend it out, and then we can keep sending you our comments, but I would like for you to be the author of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, you owned it, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I didn't just copy and paste John's report.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then let's table this for the next meeting. Oh, I got an awful lot of email coming my way,
Yeah.
I think.
Then I'll just try to text.
We can get through this, we can get through
For
this.
the year, not 6 months, you can point out 6 months.
Okay,
Reports for the
so
year.
with that, I'm gonna need a motion to adjourn to closed session.
So moved,
Hold on.
Okay,
Thanks.
by the way.
Tim,
Tim,
who seconded?
thank you.
And thank you, public, for being with us.